Dude went up and got it. He wasn't offsides.
No hands.
Well, he didn't use it on the ball, but he kind of like pushed on the player as he headed it in. I guess that's what they disallowed. But it was petty. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they called it, honestly.
Okay.
Find out, we'll go look.
Okay.
Okay. Well, they're giving me the thumbs up, so we'll get started. This is basically a work session tonight to go over and kind of look at our proposed budget. We're not going to get down into the weeds and talk about what color weed eater you buy or anything like that. This is just kind of a big overview. I know that each department head, you spent some time putting together your requests and what you think you need to operate your department, so we want to bear that in mind. But also we got to formulate a budget and stay with it somehow. So it'll be kind of an open meeting. Now, if you do have a comment or you have something to say, I'd like for you to come to the podium before you start talking, and that way everybody can hear what's going on. And because this budget affects everybody in this room, actually you guys probably more than us, because that's how you operate your departments. And you guys have done a great job of operating your department, so we want to bear that in mind. Anybody have anything else to say? So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we'll do attendance roll call, agenda item number 2.
Peterson,
Here.
Swager,
Here.
Alvidrez,
Present.
Setzer,
Present.
Sanchez,
Present.
Hoffman, Mr. Petty,
Here.
Mr. Dunham.
Present.
So with that, we'll go to agenda item number 3, discussion possible action concerning the FY 2022 budget and capital items. So I pretty well said what I want. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we turn it over to Mr. Dunham? Okay.
No, sir.
No.
I will go down there.
Okay, well, I will start off with a real high overview of our revenue and our expenses citywide. Our revenues are anticipated to be around $47,005,747, and our expenditures are anticipated to be $49,082,998. Now, this in and of itself is a shortage, but because the budget is still, the way it's presented, is still considered to be in balance, because the funds that are where there is overages, except for one, are coming from previously collected money. So money that has been collected in previous years. And I'll use examples of the ARPA money that we're receiving. We received $900,000. We anticipate receiving another $900,000 after the first of the year, and we're budgeting to spend $1.9 million. And those are just round figures. That fund does balance out. You can look, if you look on page 3 of the document that I've handed out to you today, you see the funds, the estimated beginning balance, revenues collected, money spent, transfers made, and where the funds where we're overspending. The golf course is one that we are anticipating overspending more than what we are collecting. That is primarily due to the irrigation system. We are going to have to put in some money on that. The airport fund, there may be some money that we are spending there, but primarily there, the biggest part of that is capital improvement money. The one that is still in the red, the fund that is still in the red is the Guyman Development Fund. And that is primarily because we are budgeting to construct the final 2 fields at the soccer complex. We would have to kick in some money for that, unless we are able to get grants that we have not yet applied for, or unless donations come in higher than what we anticipated. Now, we are only $22,979. There is one capital outlay item that we are planning to buy for the soccer complex that is needed, that could be leased, that's about that same amount of money, just coincidentally, and that's the gator. We could lease that gator over 3 or 4 years and spread that cost out over 3 or 4 years if we so chose to. It is not one of the items that I've got flagged that I'll go over here in a minute to lease, but that could be changed very easily. There are several capital outlay items. Well, there are basically 4 capital outlay items that are I'm considering carryovers. Body cameras for the police officers are one of them. We finally got all of our equipment in just recently, but they're not going to be able to come down and do installs and training until around February of next budget year. So we won't spend that. There's probably about $30,000 there we won't spend that we have rebudgeted in 2022. The skid steer and the bus, we've already approved those to be ordered. The delivery date on both of those is anticipated to be March of 2022. So we are just rebudgeting that money to pay that out in March. We accepted a grant and approved our re-chassis of 2 EMS units earlier this year, knowing that that grant money would not come in and those expenditures would not go out until 2022. And we're looking at about $330,000 there that we are rebudgeting. So that's some of the other items that we are rebudgeting. AMR. We've got revenue from loans that we have not realized, and we've got expenses that we have not realized that we are rebudgeting in 2022. We just approved the water tower loan. That got approved at OWRB today. They will go forth and sell their bonds, so the rates will not be set on that, and money will not be available for that until later on in December, toward the latter part of December. So all of that money is being rebudgeted for expenditure next budget year, and that's $3.5 million, both revenue and expenditure. some of the, now we've got some grant items that we are rebudgeting. We are going to account for. We're not necessarily rebudgeting all of this money, but we are going to receive, we've been awarded and will receive our FAA grant. That project is about $4.6 million. And the rehab and the reconstruction of the taxiway is fully funded by this grant. We awarded the contract for the project earlier this year, but we have not given notice to proceed yet for the contractor because we've been waiting on the FAA money to come in. Now, we have received $32,000 in ARP money for the airport. That money is being rebudgeted for the airport, to be expended at the airport. Really what I look at spending that money on, and have talked with Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, son, is they've got a new program for T-hangers, for hangar construction and that sort of thing. I would anticipate using that $32,000 as part of our match money for the T-hanger construction that we do not have budgeted yet. That project is still in the formulation stage with OAC, and now OAC wants very much to do a project in the Panhandle in northwest Oklahoma, and we are it's our responsibility to turn it down if we don't want it. I told them today on a phone call that yes, we were going to pursue that project. I haven't visited with engineers or the FBO operator yet, but we are going to want to pursue that money for hangar construction. May go primarily toward the construction of taxiways, taxiways up to where we would build the new T-hangars. But do want to have that conversation, do not want to turn that money down. That could be either grant money and or loan money, do not know which yet, but that part of it hasn't been budgeted yet. The only thing that is budgeted for expenditure is $32,000, and it really hasn't been earmarked for anything other than capital improvements. We've talked about the ARP money a little bit. There are some one-time monies that we are going to try to purchase. And maybe what the best thing for me to do is get into the capital improvement items that we've got and go down the list on those.
Excuse me.
At this point, yes. Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of things
Sure.
before we go on. And you just brought it up. But the ARPA money, which we're getting 900,000, we're getting 900,000 this year. We've already got. We'll get $900,000, I believe, in another 12 months.
Right.
This time frame. I guess my question is, you've got it budgeted to go ahead and spend it. A lot of the things, the meetings that I've been to downstate through OML and other things, is that you can take your ARPA money and use it to leverage. One of the things a lot of towns are looking at is leveraging for a CD, the Community Development Block Grant.
Yeah.
And we don't have to spend that money till 2024.
Right.
So I want to be very cautious about jumping in and spending it in one fell swoop until we look at all this.
And that's not the purpose of it.
Okay.
I budgeted the whole thing to have it budgeted in case something came up. That money, there's not projects earmarked for that money.
Okay. That answers the question.
So council would still have to approve projects that would be charged against that money. And I agree with you, we have to be very cautious about how we spend that money, because may not be until 2025 or 2027, but or even maybe a little bit later, but there's going to come a time that we're going to have to account for those expenditures. Right. And we need to make sure we've expended that money properly.
And my second question is on the Guyman development, which i.e. the soccer field,
Right.
the 2.4 million, whenever we started this, it was kind of a gentleman's agreement or agreement between us and the people that were doing the fundraising, that they would raise the money that the city wasn't going to basically take money out of our funds and pay for it. So I guess that would be my question, is that $2.4 million is, how are we going to raise, is that going to be raised by donation or through taxes?
Well, part of that money we have in our bank account. We've got the majority of that money. I believe
From where?
it's from previous donations. I think right now we've got roughly about $1.6 million in our Edward Jones account for soccer field Nashville. Is that not correct, Lavona?
I'm not sure what the figure is, General.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's roughly about 1.6 million we've got. The rest of it would have to be collections, either through grants applied for, you leveraging that money to do it, and/or donations received.
Can we give that committee that figure, since we have a figure now, and say, hey, this is what's left? The fundraising committee that assured us raising funds was not going to be an issue.
But
What do we owe at the bank on that loan?
Well, we owe more than what we've got.
Is it still over 3 million?
I'd have to look that balance up for sure. We've been making monthly payments since we received the money.
Right.
And it would be down and we've only been making those payments for about a year. Not really quite,
Right.
but it would only have gone down by the amount of our principal payment. Interest is still paid, but we've been making that payment. So, part of the thing on that is that we agreed that, well, it was my understanding at the time that the majority of the money would be paid over, the money would be paid over a 3 or 4 year period based on donations received from both the city of Guyman through the hotel tax fund, Seaboard's donation, and money donated by OPSU. Well, now, I guess I was either misinformed or didn't understand correctly or whatever, but OPSU money's not coming in, it's going to be coming in over a 10-year period. So there'll still be a shortage there without over the life of that loan. Now, we can do that. We can pull that project off, we'll pull that project out of this budget year. We haven't done any initial planning on it, and put that back and use what we've got to pay down that note, knowing that it won't pay it all down, but it'll pay down a lot of it. And then we'll just pay the rest of it as it comes in. We pay monthly, so with the money we collect at the first of the year from from Seaboard and the city, that money will just regenerate itself into monthly payments. Because it's like any other loan structured this way. We don't make annual payments, we make monthly payments. So if we pay a lot of it down, that goes toward the principal, but that doesn't alleviate our monthly payment.
What is our monthly payment, do you know?
I can find that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can get that. I'm gonna say our monthly. I'm not gonna say. I'd need to look it up.
That's fine, yeah.
Well,
I'd need to look it up.
I think we need to really look at it because, for instance, the city's commitment out of tourism was a 4-year commitment?
Yeah,
5.
Five, it was
We-
five.
Yeah, 1.5.
5, and I think we've got 2 more left.
Okay. And then Seaboard's is over a 4-year period, I
Yeah,
think?
200,000 a year.
Yeah, and we just received a payment from them today,
So
right,
I
or
guess
yesterday?
I don't want to,
Today.
I don't want to overspend money and not be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea to go to that committee though, now
Well, I
that
think
there's a figure?
I think I had a visit with one of them, came and visited with me, and they've got some ideas they want to present to us pretty quick. So,
It wouldn't hurt that, so they.
But that could be pulled off of out of this budget, alleviates a lot of that, and then rebudgeted. We could, if the council so chose to pay that, use the money we've got to pay down the note, we can do that. And then we can rebudget once the collections and/or the donations or grants received are in.
and I may not be as informed as I'm thinking, but we still have the $550,000 of the USDA loan out there available.
That is, I think we've got until 2023 to spend that money, but that money cannot be, that money cannot go back toward things that are already done, so we can't pay down the note with it. And so that would be money that is spent on the new fields.
We can't put a sprinkler system in and 3 grass fields for 500,000?
They're not grass fields.
Well,
I thought that's
Well, that
what we
was
were
the-
going to
that
do.
was the-
well, and I've talked with, and since some of our conversations, I've talked with other soccer complexes. They are highly recommending going with turf fields.
Okay.
They said the wear and tear on a grass field, the maintenance cost on that grass field will be so much higher than the initial cost. Long-term maintenance cost on that grass field will be so much higher than what the initial out-of-pocket cost will be to put in turf. I mean, they said over the long term, you're going to save yourself money, put it in turf.
It's a no-brainer. We live in a desert.
Yeah, but I guess the reason I brought these things up is I think we've relied heavily on the involvement of the people that stepped up and volunteered to raise the money and some other things. And there's folks out there that have expertise in soccer that it's not me, for sure.
And I had this conversation with Geraldine, I think, at one point, and she was in agreement with me.
Okay, but I think we need to kind of slow down, take it slow and easy, and make sure that we're able to pay for it, is my thought. If that makes any sense.
I agree. We also got to remember that 2-cent sales tax comes off in 3 years.
Yes.
And so if we don't get that approved to continue, that's going to put quite a strain on a person's budget. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind going forward.
But anyway, that's kind of the feeling I get from the public.
Okay, and I was just handed the document. Our monthly payment on that loan for the soccer complex is about $8,300 a month.
So we haven't paid much principal down. How many years is that for?
I think we only did it for 5 years.
That wouldn't be right. Because you'd only be paying in about $100,000 a year, and if you got a $3.25 million loan out there, or 3.5.
This document doesn't tell me the length of the loan, and I'd have to go back to the loan documents
No problem.
for that, but that's our monthly payment right now.
Yeah,
let's get back to,
I think I made my point.
yeah.
I think we're good to move on.
Yep.
I am anyway. You okay?
I think we need to let our fundraising committee know the amount of money they need to raise. That way they can do what they want to do and help us out.
And honestly, the figure I used for the budget on those two fields were the alternate budget that we received on, for the two fields when we constructed the three that we've got. So that is a dated number, but it was a good number a year back. Anything else on that?
I'm good.
Would you like for me to move forward with the capital outlay items?
Sure.
Of course, the largest capital outlay items that we have are going to be, we've budgeted for the construction of a new police station. That is budgeted as a loan. I believe we've talked about that in the past. We are still working on securing property for that, and we are still working on the design. Like I said, I will be meeting with Anthony Blatt the last week in November, first week in December, to discuss where we're at on some projects, that being one of them. The next largest that we have would eliminate the 2.4 million for Nash Soccer Complex. We've got the water irrigations project. That's broken up, not the water irrigation, the meter installation project. That's broken up over two departments. There's $1.4 million in the water department and $1.6 million in the gas department. That's broken down based on our bid that we received for each of those services. We've already got the loan approved for that. Like I stated earlier, we have not drawn down any of that money yet, so all that would be realized once we start drawing that money down. We've got the construction of the water tower. That loan was approved today. We have not actually received any money yet. Would anticipate that we won't receive money until after, we won't actually close on that loan until after OWRB sells their bonds to fund it. I don't anticipate that being before the first of the year. That's $3.5 million. We did budget for, this is another item that we could pull out of the budget as an expense if we so chose to, but we are budgeting for the entire $1.9 million in ARPA funds. That money's not earmarked for anything. That's just a placeholder for future projects determined by the council. And if we want to pull that out of the budget and make budget amendments when those projects are approved, that's perfectly acceptable, but that is still money that currently is in our plan for expenditure. Does the council have a preference on that? We have talked about how important it is to spend it for the right purpose already.
Other improvements?
That's on the next page.
What's the amount on this?
$1,920,804. We've already received $960,255 and expect to receive another $960,549 in 2022.
And that can be used for any capital improvement.
No, it can only be used for, the way I understand what's written, the way it's written, it can only be used for infrastructure projects, primarily water and sewer lines. Can't be used for street projects or anything transportation related.
Is our gas project, our gas pipe replacement project, is that currently going on?
It's going on. We have talked with Oklahoma Corporation Commission. And they are agreeable that we're going to do what we can this year. We will not meet the required line replacement. The contractor's just not moving fast enough for us to meet that. Cold weather's fixing to set in, and we're gonna have to stop it. But we will be able to get onto that early next year, and our plan is to meet that minimum requirement of gas line replacement next year.
Could we use it for the water storage tanks?
The
Water storage tanks?
The ARPA money can be used to reduce our loan money for the water, but that is not the way we intend, that's not the plan
Right,
for it at this
right.
time. Because we already, by the time we receive, the reason it's not the plan for it, by the time we had we started receiving it, our ARPA money and the state was releasing it, we already had plans in motion
Right.
for the 3.95 million.
Right.
But yes, it can be used to buy that down.
I'd like to
Buy
ramp
that.
up the gas line replacement, at least only if it's for a year.
But I think we've already pretty well committed, except for signing the documents on that loan.
Yes.
So I don't know that we can pay it down, can we?
Well, I think we can still pay it. I don't think there's a prepayment on that loan, prepayment penalty on that loan. We would certainly discuss that. Before we did it, we'd certainly discuss that with our FA.
I actually wouldn't have a problem using it for the water and sewer and gas lines. The only question I have is, do we have the manpower to do a mile or whatever?
Okay, well, I wanted to mention something about this AMI project, okay? So we have a
Is
bid.
that on?
I don't know, but I can talk loud.
Okay.
Is the green light on?
Green light's on.
There you go.
Okay. So on the AMI project, they gave us a bid and said $3 million, right? So we've got a crew out here doing a survey right now. And so these guys are looking at our water meter services and looking at stuff and said, oh my. I'm not saying let's save this ARPA money for this, but I think that $3 million is not going to be enough to do the projects, because we're just out there in the Elks Edition right now, and these guys are looking at these vaults and the meter service and said, oh, wow, all this stuff's going to have to be rebuilt. So we're going to have a crew to come in here. That wasn't accounted for, was it, Joe Don, on this bid? That we have to hire another crew to come rebuild
No,
these services?
That was not, the bid was, they were going to, the bid that they had submitted was to come in and replace the meters with AMI and set up that technology.
The equipment
So
and-
I really
The equipment
think,
in the setup.
I really think this AMI project is going to cost more. I'm not saying let's spend our ARPA money on this. I'm just saying, we need to think about that.
Well, it needs to be done anyways.
Well, but
It's
but
got to
also-
be done to get the AMIs in. We want the AMIs. But I think there's going to be some hidden costs
but we're-
that we didn't allow for.
But we all need to stop and remember that we borrowed $5 million for the project, so we've got.
Okay, so
a little
there-
bit- we've got
there
a
could be
buffer in there
enough.
to cover
Yeah,
that stuff.
we've got a buffer for we did get a line of credit approved for $5 million.
Well, I just wanted you to realize, I don't think the $3 million that they're expecting to spend is going to be all of what's going to be spent.
It's a good update. Thank you. Seems like a lot of overhead on that project.
Yeah. departments need vehicles. I've got roughly $834,135 budgeted for vehicles next budget year. I've budgeted and I have planned to either, well, basically to lease purchase those vehicles. The bulk of that is for one vehicle, which would be a fire engine at $520,000.
Can I ask what type of,
What type of engine?
yeah,
Grant?
Red,
This will be for a Class 1 engine, which will replace our 2000 year model engine that's probably on its last life cycle.
What's
This
that?
next year. It's on its last life cycle. It's expected next week to be, have its annual testing, and we've suspected it may not be able to pass this year. If it does not pass, then it's not in service at all anymore. We've repaired it as much as we can over the years. So we received it in 2000, in the year 2000, and most fire engines last about 10 years, so we've
About 10
gotten
years.
well of our worth out of this.
and that's roughly 500,000 is what a new one's gonna cost?
Between 5 and 6, and the one that we're actually would like to look at is probably right at the 500 level.
but that's fully equipped, right?
Yes.
Chief, how about the 2012 that we have that, what do you think the lifespan on that is?
It's going rather fast also. Actually, I've been in, talking with Joe Don. One of the plans that I have over a 5-year term is looking at replacing our engines that we currently have every 5 years and getting on a plan of something such as that.
That was like a $915,000 ticket item, right? Ladder.
The ladder?
Yeah.
Yes, and actually, that ladder, brand new, is well over 1.2 million. It was a used or demo model, which we came across very nicely, and it's done very well. But again,
You
over
think
time.
those still exist?
Do what?
You think we could find newer demo models?
I think it is possible. But with the demos, it comes with usually no equipment, and it's built already. You don't have the features that would pertain to the way that we fight fire. It's the sides and all that are built one way. It may have more shelves in it than we want, or less shelves. But it's something to look at.
So we are looking at a plan to not get stuck with everything all at one time, on something that big, and we need for sure.
Yes.
Up and
Like I said, about every 5 years, currently, replacing one every 5 years would extend the ones that we currently have. Now, we are having issues with the ones that we currently have, and y'all, I've been in this long enough. Fire trucks, they carry water, and you know as well as I do, anything that carries water will eventually leak. And that's what we're dealing with every day, and that's just common across the board. But things eventually wear out. And
What
that's what we're
wears
dealing
out?
with.
What wears out on a truck that,
Do what?
how come some communities have got like 1979 fire truck that they're still using, or 1985 or whatever?
Have you seen our
In-
roads?
Well, I know, but I'm just saying what wears out.
In my opinion, they may not have a plan in place to replace those engines. And a
So they
lot of
use
the
what they've
ones,
got?
and the ones that they have, and they may not do pump testing. They may not be a pumper or an engine that could go into a city like ours and be able to put out a large fire.
Okay.
May not be able to handle the amount of water that we do. Remember, our ISO rating, which the customers and citizens of Guyman have come to know, we keep down very low.
Right.
Because of the training that we do, the records we keep, the equipment that we have.
What's it at right now?
Continue to- It's at a 4.
Is that a 4?
And remember, the scale is the higher that you go, which is at a 10, insurance, or 9 and 10, insurance rates are out of the roof, and then a level 1 is your lowest, and those are usually, you see in the more metro city,
Right.
which they have a
Like
lot
at Edmond.
of the resources. A town of our size to have a 4 is very uncommon. It's not real common across the state.
Right. And I'd like to keep that rating. And if we need to get some kind of change out.
And one of our, one of the visions is to look towards the future in the fire service. Look every 5 to 7 years to 10 years to replacing that. But when you get behind, then all you're doing is catching up on all the vehicles and just trying to keep up the maintenance. I think with the newer equipment, we will keep our maintenance down quite a bit. And then by the time that engine or that unit has exceeded its time, then it'll be on the replacement list and we can go on. The other thing is with those engines or with the units, they can actually be sold to other departments towards their ends. You said, like the 1978 models, those towns would pick up engines like what we have that are still in decent physical condition. The pumps are worn out, but they may have the funds to put a brand new pump in it. So, we may be able to even get something out of the used units.
I can tell you, all that gear looks brand new though. You guys keep them clean. Sure.
We take pride in everything that we got.
You do.
Well, just an observation, and it's not just the fire department. I think it's everywhere but it seems like we've got off of our, what I would call a rotation schedule, and where we're getting hit all at once one year. And I think that's something we need to probably look towards in the future, because just like you say on the fire engines, you think there's a 5 or 10 year life. Let's plug it in that we're going to start shooting for 5 or 10 years to buy new.
And that's a plan that I have discussed with Joe Don, which evidently we discussed. For the last 14 years, I've been the EMS director, and ambulances are wearing out even faster than fire trucks. It's just very, luckily this last year, we did some grant writing internally. We were able to maneuver some things around to be able to get this OSERFS grant, which we basically are going to get 2 refurbished ambulances for the price of 1. And we were able to get both grants this year, which is very rare, which Joe Don can attest to. It's very rare, but we did our best to do that. And we did it internally.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We do have in the budget to purchase purchase what we estimate to be $785,165 worth of new street equipment. And specifically, when we talk about that and what that'll be, that's going to be a new double drum vibratory roller, a variable width chip sealer, oil distributor, a new dump truck, 2 new 3/4 ton pickups, and a new front end loader. And that would be paid for, all those items would be paid for out of the settlement fund. And that does not deplete the settlement fund. There's still funds in there. But those were one-time monies. We do want to spend those monies as the same as the ARPA money. We want to spend those monies very judiciously. I think those are a lot of the big ticket items and some of the things we've lumped together. We've got several other items here that range in price. I mean, we're looking at a new phone system. All of our a lot of our computer switches are not functioning or about at life's end, need to be replaced. We are looking at upgrading our security camera and software replacement. We're looking into a new, which would be a new program and we're budgeting for all of the vehicles. It may not necessarily be every rolling vehicle we have when we get down to it, but we are looking at putting in the GPS system on our vehicles. This way that we will be able to dispatch vehicles or personnel to high priority items, i.e. police department. Who's the closest that can respond to which officer is the closest that can respond to a assault or a break-in? We can dispatch water department line maintenance people for breaks. Who's closest to the break when we get the report? Gets it shut off. That saves us money and on lost water and things like that. Life safety issues.
Our police vehicles don't already have GPS in them?
Not that we can dispatch through, no.
Interesting.
Or we can see where Tracy's at.
Yeah, in this way we can always track Tracy's moves. You know, we are worried about that.
Obviously, the IT stuff is estimated figures, right?
We've got some pretty firm quotes on those, but depending on when they're bought. So they're estimated in a way, yes. They've given us quotes. But of course, those quotes are good that day. We'd have to re-quote it when we decide to purchase. And there could be some increases there.
And
Or decreases.
Supply chains are way backed up too. So
Yeah. Especially on IT items.
Yeah, I was just curious about the switches and how many we actually needed.
Jim? The question is, I can't remember off the top of my head. How many switches are we needing to replace?
I believe we had about 10 that were end of life.
Yeah, okay.
And we did get quotes from 2 people on those, so those numbers are pretty accurate. But we did have, we'll have to put 3 more switches in there in order to do PoE for the phone system at some locations that don't
Right.
have that right now. So those numbers are pretty close today. What they'll be next year, we don't know.
You planning on going Cisco, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely,
Then you better. Lead times on those are pretty backed up, right?
I'm sure. Even at access points, you can't get it delivery time on it.
We're
And
talking
the prices are twice.
half a year.
Yeah, yeah.
That's better.
Good deal.
We've got some other equipment for the fire department that going to total about $140,000 budgetarily. 10 sets of bunker gear, 8 breathing packs. We're looking at about probably $25,000 worth of upgrades to Station 2. The bunker gear, the air packs, I consider those a life safety item, and those are $113,000 total. One thing we do have is upgrading, and this will come out of the CIP sales tax money. We would like to upgrade the swimming pool with a splash pad. We estimate that on being about $175,000.
I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
That pool's not being used. I drive by there on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and I see 4 or 5 kids in there at 2, 3 in the afternoon, and I'm amazed how little that's been used.
The public pool?
Yeah.
I see tons of kids
I
out
see a
there.
lot of kids there.
I really haven't. Like
I
I
drive
said,
It's
by.
practically a
Saturday,
daycare in the
Sunday
summertime.
afternoons.
In the summertime, I drive by there almost there's a lot of people there.
One thing.
I mean, I guess you could look at reports from the YMCA.
Yeah, that would
They're the
be-
ones that manage it, but as far as usage,
Well, one thing that we did on the splash pad.
that's
we
on
really
my
need to-
route home.
That we really need to look into is I think we've got finally to the point that we're certified healthy city through TSET, and there's some large grants available through TSET. I don't know how big.
Yeah, and we would look in, when it comes time to do that project, once we have firm numbers on it, we would certainly try to, or have a firm estimate on what a splash pad would cost us. We would certainly look at any grant possibilities out there.
We received a rough estimate on fixing that pool, right? Fixing
The baby
The
pool?
baby pool.
No.
No?
They,
Was it
everybody that
splash
looked
pad?
at it basically laughed at us and said, you can't fix that.
Yeah.
But
I think
splash pad would be
one of the
good.
ideas with the splash pad is to create a little bit more interest in coming to our pool, because
Yeah.
we're surrounded by communities that have better pools than we do. It's kind of
By
embarrassing.
far.
He doesn't like to run through the sprinkler.
Oh, that's
And that's one of the things about a
Sprinklers
splash
out there.
pad. That's one of the things about a splash pad. It wouldn't affect us this year because I don't think it could be installed. I could be wrong, but I don't think it could be installed by the time we open up for the summer. But next year in 2023, it could be operational, and that the splash pad is such that it doesn't require lifeguards. If it's zero entry, what's considered zero entry water, there's no surface water there. Doesn't require lifeguards, doesn't require to be fenced off. It can be opened up earlier and stay open later for the little kids that and families that want to utilize it.
So to add to Larry, you said probably on the weekends, that's probably the time that they load up and go to those surrounding
right.
communities.
or the lake.
And go to, because our pool is very lacking compared
I
to
know. Yeah.
smaller communities around us, so I don't know if that's something that we could look at, C&T money for the construction of something later on down the road, but I mean, it's an embarrassment compared to other communities around us.
And it's one of those things I like to harp on as far as amenities go. As much attention as we're paying to everything else, we need to pay just as much attention to the amenities, because if we want someone to invest in our community, it's kind of hard to do if you can't keep the kids busy.
I agree. We probably need to get some kind of quote of getting a water park of some sort in place. There's tons of room there, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of area there. So that's something that we could look at in the future. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Some of the other items, bigger items, we're planning on a large carport to house our buses, to park our buses in, to hopefully make them last a little longer. We got several equipment purchases. We are looking at leasing new golf carts next year. Our current lease is up in July, and we will be working to replace those golf carts.
That's a good deal, and
in
that's
July of 2022.
That's something that I think we've established and we've looked at, and we got on rotation where
Right.
we're not left with several non-working cars.
Right.
So that's a good deal.
So we we're letting our lease get closer, so we'll probably start looking at that closer to April or May to have them in place by the time our old ones lease is up. In the Guyman Industrial Authority, we do have about little over $1.1 million budgeted for public improvements. That would be our TIF money. We've budgeted for our payments that we need to make because of the TIF. We are in line for a $1 million grant. We're filling out some paperwork. We're trying to get that finalized. We have made it to the next round on that. So that would all be dependent upon the grant funds. Moving on to the Guyman Utility Authority. We do have one of the big ticket items is $450,000 for the relocation of water sewer lines down here by Regional Park. That's where ODOT is going to be doing their tie-in on the highway over to, between the highways. And we're going to be required to do that. My thought on it is that since we know that's coming, I don't know where ODOT is on their plans. I do expect that to be part of their 2022 plan. That's where it's slated. That's what they're doing. I don't know when, though. They have not been able to give me a time frame on that. So might as well get the money budgeted, get crews in there working early in the year, get it done, get it behind us, and move on. We do have some, for the water department, we're replacing 1,000 feet of water line. We've got a couple of VFDs that we need to install and repair. For the wastewater treatment plant, we've got some UV bulbs and blowers that need to be replaced to the tune of about $120,000, $126,000. We've got that in the budget. We need to construct a dumping station at the north sewer station. We're going to rehabilitate about 500 feet of sewer line. We need to replace the pivot system number 7. Another carryover item that I didn't mention earlier was the lift station number 6. We've authorized that. We're working on the design of that. It won't be bid out probably until closer to mid-December. So that $380,000 estimate is a carryover from this year. We're going to need to rehabilitate and replace about 2,600 feet of gas line. That is a OCC requirement, and that's something we need to get on early next year, so we make sure that we get that gas line replaced. Corporation Commission's harping at us about that. We've missed the mark for probably the last 2 years, this year and last year. Talked to Tracy and Stephen, and we have, and I have emphasized to them, we've got to meet that mark next year. No, really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've got to get it done. One of the things that we've got for the sanitation department that is rather expensive, but I think will pay off some dividends in the long run, is we've got a huge pile of concrete out there. We'd like to bring in a person to grind that up. Going to cost us about $142,000 based on our last estimate. We'll be able to use that concrete for street base, alley repairs. It'll benefit us in the long run to get that ground up and have it used. It'll end up saving us money in purchasing of rock and things like that we have to pay, that we have to buy. So we'd like to grind that up and reutilize that. Again, and the last thing on the general government side, the general GUA side that's listed there is the ARPA funds. And again, if we choose to, it's no big deal. We can pull that $1.9 million out of the budget and let council rebudget that money as projects come up and as council approves that. And that's pretty much the capital outlay items that we've got budgeted. There's some odds and ends in there, little bitty items that aren't going to account for a lot of money that we haven't hit on, but that's the big ticket items.
Do you have a list of what projects Mr. Blatt is going to address?
He's addressed the building. We've got some preliminary drawings on the building. at the golf course. He's preparing drawings for the deck at the golf course. He's working on, well, he's finished work on, and he's working with contractors now to get constructed the entryways and some of the big signage at the Nash Soccer Complex. He's working on cost estimates for due diligence side of it, for rehabbing the current police station, and he's working on the design of a new police station. One of the other things that he told me he had been contacted about, and that he's going to visit with them about, and this is really not part of, right now, not part of our budget, but he's going to be talking, I guess, with the Arts Council group on getting their facility across the street up to code. Now, again, that would tie into our budget as part of one of the items I kind of need to get some direction on, is our funding for the Guyman Arts Council and for Main Street Guyman. Both of those entities have asked for line item budgetary items for us to be able to support them. We have deferred that decision till next year, and I just need to know how to budget for that. Are we going to try to line item budget that, or are we going to ask for them to come in and make proposals as they go along and fund it in a different manner? And I'm just going to kind of open that up for council discussion and leave it at that, because I don't know what I just need to know what y'all want me to do.
Well, either one of those scenarios, we're setting aside money for arts and Main Street, right? Essentially. And I think that's important. It's important for our community. Both groups are active and always putting on events and always giving something for our citizens to be doing. And I think one big project that I know that the community theater wants to do is get the sign revamped.
Right.
And that's a tourism attraction. That's a great way for us to market our city. It markets itself.
What sign?
The big marquee out front, the American Theater marquee.
Oh, gotcha.
Get that up, lit up. I mean, you can only imagine what it would be like having it lit up and how amazing our Main Street would look with just that one project. I think that's a marketing opportunity. It's a beautification project. I mean, I think it helps us out with just one big project. It helps us out in a lot of different directions.
That's another question I had with Mr. Blatt. Does he need to get involved? I know I've mentioned before on the entry points to the city of Guyman. Does he have to be involved for any type of construction, beautification on some kind, to revamp the entry points? Welcome to Guyman sign, lit up, something nice. You know what I'm talking about, right? Coming into the cities.
Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Does an engineer have to be involved in that, or some? I mean, I assume.
Depends on the construction. I think it would depend on the construction that we're wanting to do.
Gotcha.
If you're wanting to just to kind of illuminate the signage that's currently there, and we're still working on with people to get the one sign, the sign coming in from the east.
Yeah, 412.
On 412 that got hit. We're still working with the guy to make that sign.
Right.
So that they all match.
Right. And that's something that I'd like to, I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see some uniformity, carry the same signage on 54, 64, 412, and big and nice,
I think right now
it's lacking.
Right now they all match. Do we want to keep it the way it is? Do we want to read and just add illumination to it, add lighting to it? Or do we want to do something totally different? If it's just adding lighting and things like that to what's currently there, no, I don't think an engineer needs to be involved.
Gotcha.
But if it is redesigning something to go in its place, then yes, I think it would be worthwhile to have Mr. Blatt involved.
Well, we do have a very artistic community that could come up with some ideas on making our entry points a little bit more inviting and visually appealing.
One thing, and I was at, I'm trying to remember when it was, maybe about 5 years ago. Enid's done it, but they have a guy, they worked on a community branding project.
Right.
And they brought in everybody, like, basically everybody kind of worked together to share a similar logo.
Yeah.
So if you see this logo, it's Enid. And you've probably noticed if you've drawn through. And I know the guy that, and I don't know if he's still at Enid, but I visited with him, and he said he would be happy to come, maybe give us a little seminar on what we could do. And I know there's people out there.
That'd be good. Uniformity in the brand is what I was looking
It's
for.
kind of, I guess the best example to use on that would be what happened at Panhandle State, was they had 18 different logos being used on business cards. And now they've got one. So anyway,
Yeah, and even our public school, you know, they rebranded and make sure that we're using that same G that we stole from Georgia. But yeah, we're just using that G on everything. And I think it definitely wise to, you know, make sure our branding is matching and shining and something that
Exactly.
is visually appealing when we come into the town.
And when you enter Guyman, see the same thing
Yes.
lit up, a visual, right?
That the logo that we have, how long have we had that? Didn't we do some sort of a project for rebranding on that when we
it's been 20.
rolled that out? Has it been that
30 years-
long?
Probably 30 years ago.
Oh God.
Maybe, I don't know.
I worked at KKBS that long ago.
It may not have been that long ago, but I can't remember. Vicki, do you remember? We're lucky Coors never sued us.
Another question I had was, I know ODOT has taken responsibility, and they are the ones that are gonna be responsible for a pedestrian walkway, sidewalk down 64, 12th,
To some degree, yes.
to some degree. I know we've had talks about putting in our own pedestrian walkway, sidewalks down the streets that have heavy foot traffic. Where are we at on that?
Well, anything, we're not very far along at all. Any work that we would do, any work of that type that we would do within our, general operations budget.
Okay.
It wouldn't be outlined as a capital improvement item. It would be operated through as our general operations budget and be funded out of there. So it'd be funded out of street department, basically out of street department operations.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad
Because
you
we
brought
do
that up. Yeah.
we do need those.
We absolutely do.
I mean, you name a street, there's somebody walking down the road.
Well, and right now, we've got kids walking to the complex left and right, and we don't even have a crosswalk going out there except for to the elementary. And then we have a park right along that little corridor that bends over where 412 and 54 meet. No sidewalks.
can't-
Only a sidewalk inside of the park, but not like
You
along
can't
the
drive
edge.
down 12th, 64th Main without seeing somebody walking, and
Right.
they have to walk through dirt and grass. And I don't know how much responsibility ODOT is gonna take on 64, 12, that area, but that's one that I travel frequently, and there's people walking on it at all times of day or,
Right.
at all times.
We've talked about that.
So if ODOT is not on board with that, I'd like, well, they're gonna expand too,
Right.
so we need to keep that in mind. I'd like to see something get started on, we need to, if council wants to pick a road, if streets department wants to get involved, one that comes to mind, East Street, Sunset. We can pick a road and start with a sidewalk / pedestrian walkway and knock that out in a couple months.
Yeah. Do we have an estimated date on when ODOT's going to come in and start their project?
8-year plan.
Yeah, I do not have that in front of me. I've got some information from the Region 6 engineer, but where he gave me some general dates, but I don't have that.
It was an
With me.
8-year plan 8 years ago.
Yeah.
What's the major plan?
Well, and just,
Because we
Well-
actually had the transportation, the main, what was his name, Mr. Peterson? He came here and gave a presentation. He's no longer there.
Oh, not your, good night, big tall, the tall red.
Peterson. Was it Peterson?
No, it wasn't me. I know you're talking about,
Yeah.
but when the new governor came in, he left.
Right,
I can
right.
see his face, but I can't tell you that.
Either way,
But those
I-
might be, sir, just some things that we plug into working with partners in the community to outline and plan some of those things out.
yeah,
And see how we can
I
do it.
agree, but at the same time, something needs to happen.
Well, we gotta get started so we can make
Right.
something happen. And I agree with you. Plus, you gotta have a place to ride those scooters.
Exactly.
yeah.
We have to ride those scooters. You know, you don't want them in the middle of the road, do you? Or maybe you do.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, especially since it's kind of borderline public safety issue at that point.
Well, Oklahoma City passed bonds, you know. to
It's
do
a
this stuff.
healthy, it's a healthier, issue too, so maybe there's grants but constructing,
the sidewalks, there are some grants out there that we can apply for. They're all through ODOT. We can tie it to schools. I mean, like, Mr. Setzer's talked about having, sidewalks close by a school and to we can tie those together and try for those grants, through ODOT to help fund some of that. They're called, Safe Routes to School and, Safe Routes to School grants is what they're called.
Yeah,
As long as we can kind of tie into a school.
Yeah, surely we'd be able to get something to go through Apache to Prairie.
Yeah.
Even if we just had that part sidewalked, that'd be fantastic.
well, we need to keep that in the back of our mind because it's just more and more people are walking. We need to have them a sidewalk to walk on. Riding their bikes,
What else?
their scooters.
Here.
Where are we at now?
We got a list now.
I'm done, I think.
You're done?
I think.
You happy? I don't know if you're ever gonna be happy.
Well, I'm done, thank you.
Are we gonna vote on this next Tuesday?
I think next Tuesday night's meeting would be, you'll give your budget message.
I'll have a final budget put together based on discussions tonight, and I'll go over some of that before we leave. And I'll have a budget message prepared to give you. And then that would be our final meeting to approve the budget. Now, kind of some of the things we've talked about. Make sure I'm on board with you. The funding that we have now in the budget to do the fields 4 and 5 at the Nash Soccer Complex, we're going to remove that project from the budget. Right now, there is no money budgeted for the Arts and Humanities Council or Main Street. We're going to add that into the budget. Typically, that has been, I'm on Main Street, we've researched that. There's money, we paid it out of general fund for a while. We paid it out of tourism for a while. Either way, it's appropriate, we just need to figure out where we're gonna pay for it out of. If it's paid for out of tourism, I would say that they would be required to come and ask tourism for the money. If it's paid for out of the general fund, no. Now, if we do that and we do, council can come up with some guidelines as far as reporting or things like that that they would like to see from both of these entities on how the money is being spent. But we need to develop that and give it to both those entities. If we want to, we've talked about funding internally. We've talked some about helping Guyman's Arts Council fund the revamp of that sign. And we could earmark that $15,000 for that. I think that would go a long way to helping Arts Council revamp that sign. I don't know that it's going to go a long way. We won't know probably after Thanksgiving about how far that would go. And incidentally, that would be after we pass the budget. How far that money would go toward making their building ADA accessible. That would be, I would anticipate that being quite a bit of money. Making it, I haven't been in that building in a long time. I was there once when I was going through the community leadership development class. They had a presentation for us there. It was a very nice building, very nice stage, everything else. But how do we, from what I remember that making it ADA accessible may be a challenge.
This may be a dumb question. Who owns that building?
The Guyman Community Theater itself, that nonprofit.
So it's actually two very different things that we're talking about. So Guyman Community Theater, yes, they want help into replacing the marquee outside. But the funds that we're allocating for is for the actual board and commission that's part of the city. It's the Guyman Area Arts and Humanity Council. Typically, we write a grant to OAC, which is the Oklahoma Arts Council, and we do a matching portion. This year, we wrote a pretty hefty grant because we're being pretty aggressive. So we are looking at a match of $7,500, which was approved. But what we were asking for future the last time we met, which has been a while, when we met with the GAC or the Guyman Area Arts Council, when we met, it was suggested that we would do actually it was the council, I'm lying, it was council, was suggested that we do a $15,000 line item for the Guyman Area Arts and Humanity Council for future, so that every year that this is something that we have as a line item, so that we can continue to improve things like the murals or having additional art contests with our local high school, junior high, and college students, or even just other artists here. Because what we've done in the past is we've done fundraisers, or we've kind of like ask people to pitch in whenever they can to do these murals that everybody wants to see in town, but we would like to have the funds accessible that we can actually pay the artists for their work. So, but yes, a portion of some of us that sit on the Guyman Area Arts Council who are ex officios, we also are part of the Guyman Community Theater, and they want to work together to replace the marquee. And then yes, the building needs to be up to code, because it really isn't up to code.
Yeah,
But those are two different entities. I just wanted to make sure I
The Arts and
clarified that.
Humanities Commission, we've focused on beautification projects, murals, the traffic boxes that got painted on with local artwork and everything. And those are the projects we want to keep doing, because we have several places in which murals have been asked to be painted on, but we just lack the funds to pay an artist.
And that's the $15,000 you're asking.
Yes.
Right,
Investment.
every year we would take the $50,000 and reinvest it in our community, make it more beautiful, presentable, whatnot.
Okay.
So what's the estimate on the?
Marquee?
Yep.
Last time it was 40,000, there was 20,000 raised, so there was 20,000 that needed to be, but that's been.
See, so those are the numbers that need to be, we need to. those
Yeah,
are
but
the
again,
numbers we need to
that's
know.
not what we were asking for
Gotcha,
this budget,
gotcha.
yeah. So there were two different things, but yeah, those numbers were presented to Convention and Tourism a few times, and I think it's something that they are wanting, since there's a new board, they're more proactive. I think that's something that they were gonna present to Convention and Tourism, and if not, to council later on.
And the
That
community
is-
theater has raised a little over $20,000
Yeah.
that they have earmarked for replacing that marquee and updating the marquee. So looking at a matching grant for that would be
I
something that would
mean,
be.
down Main Street, there are several business owners that are updating their storefronts. So, I mean, that only adds to,
The value, and that's what we're hoping that we're gonna accomplish. The Convention and Tourism did pass the facade grant. They've earmarked $25,000 for next fiscal year, so we're hoping that it's gonna continue to, once we start approving these things and we show people that, yes, we have a little bit of skin in the game, so they have skin in the game, then the value added just in the downtown will increase significantly.
and it is exciting. It's nice to look at, I'm not gonna lie. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. So I think last time we were talking about Main Street as a council, we were talking about adding them as a line item. And then also doing a smaller one for the arts and humanities.
Yeah,
right.
So we could keep these beautification projects going throughout the town.
I think what council added to that, and the only thing that, if I remember correctly, was to see where the money was being spent. I think that's the only report that was,
I think
That we were-
it's true, as with any other committee, that we have to have some oversight.
Absolutely.
right.
Because,
Just because we have to be stewards.
and it may be something that may be something that we need to get an opinion from Mr. Petty on also.
Are we talking about the Arts Council, or let's go from there?
More Main
We
Street
gotta
and,
come up to the podium if you want to talk.
I mean, you're, whatever, the reporting. We'll do whatever you deem necessary. I mean, if you want your auditor to come in and audit our books, that would be fine with us too. In fact, if you did a true audit from your side, then we could actually count it as a real audit on ours, so it
Win-win.
might save us something. But, I mean, whatever you guys decide, we'll do.
thank you, ma'am.
So, yes. So am I hearing you, I guess, on Main Street? One of the things I remember, the reason we set it aside at a previous meeting was, where did we typically pay from? And that's where we've kind of fluctuated back and forth. So either way, I think is appropriate. We can do it in tourism, or we can do it in general fund. I just need to know your preference.
My preference for that would be general fund.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that's what we talked about 2 months ago, right? We all agreed that it would be easier and
We just
Made
wanted, we
more
wanted to make
sense,
sure
yeah.
that, and like I say, we've done that in the past.
Yeah. My preference would be convention and tourism. One would be,
For what?
because if they were to be turned down for those funds,
For Main Street?
for Main Street.
Okay.
If they were to be turned down, then the other avenue would be come directly to council. That's one of them. And two, I think it's a convention and tourism deal, to tell you the truth. I think it's a decision. Those are people that are on that board to make that decision.
yeah, I would agree, except for a lot of the consistent events, the monthly events that Main Street puts on, mostly benefits the citizens of Guyman, not really tourism coming in. And it's the shopping things I mean, that's sales tax. That's not
Agreed.
really convention tourism. That's not filling beds. That's at a hotel. That's, creating events downtown for us to have things to do and spend money in town by citizens in town.
And they actually give a report on an annual basis, both the Convention and Tourism and Guyman Area and Arts Council. It's a final report, or basically their final report that's given at the end of the year, or whenever they come and ask for their next one that month. So like say it's in April, they ask for money. We do give a report because I have to file a report with OAC for them. With Main Street Guyman, y'all know because we decided, or y'all decided before I got here, but we decided that city
Employee on the
staff
board.
member must sit on their board. So I do sit on their board, myself and Miss Cindy. So they do a lot within, they help a lot since there's a lot of economic growth that goes on. And I'm gonna be very honest, about 80% of all of your economic growth is gonna come within your community. And that's like national, that's every day. Here, it happens every day. We have people, our local people that do something. So make sure Guyman provides a few things that, some of them that, well, all of them I'm heavily involved in, some of them I actually have to teach, which is not good. But one of them is our BR&E program, which is our business retention and expansion program. So they help with that, which basically they go to our business owners and seeing if there's any issues that they're having within the community or the city, or if there's anything that they feel like we're lacking within the community that we can help, like auxiliary services. So that's one program that they do for us. They have the entrepreneurship program that every year we at least get 2 new businesses from, well, 1 or 2 new businesses. One most definitely is a brick and mortar, and like last year we had 1 brick and mortar, and we had a few businesses that started online or are starting in some of the pop-up shops. So they do that. It's be your own boss. And then they do the career focus, which helps. And I send somebody every year that I've been here, I've sent somebody to career focus. And it's another, this year it's going to be a 6-week-long course where you can send your people that work for your businesses and learn how to become that next level of management, or how to own, or how to speak, or however it is that they, whatever training that we get a group and we kind of see what it is that we're trying to tailor into. So that's stuff that they do for the community. So while it has been since I've been here funded out of convention and tourism, I do see where it is more of a citywide, just because of all of the other things that they offer, not just the farmer's market, not just the, the different shopping things, the mobster things, but there is a lot that they add value to, because they have the volunteers and they have the time and the workforce to do that actually benefit the business and the citizen of Guyman.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
have you
And
got
good
a-
job with the trick or trunk too this year.
Oh, thank you.
That was really good.
So you got a consensus, Jodan, of what you want?
I think it should go into general funds, Jodan, for the same reasons.
Okay. And that would be for both of them?
For Main Street,
Main Street for sure, general
And-
fund.
and then arts and humanities, same thing, because they do a lot of
General.
things
Okay.
general.
I'm good with that. We will do that. The last thing, we talked around it, we talked about it being an option, just to make sure that's what you want to do, and that's to pull the expenditures for the ARPA funds.
Mr. Schweiger?
What's that? Yeah.
I think we
Kim,
need
you
to
got
really-
any input on that, on those two before
No,
we
that's fine.
move
I'm
on?
good. I think we need to pull the ARPA funds out
Bless you.
because we have till 2014 to have a project designated. 224.
Yeah,
I'm living in the past here. man.
no
And-
problem.
Well, anyway,
I'll pull that.
till 2024, but also if we get a project in place and we're ready to do it, we can extend it to 2026 before we have to spend it.
Yep.
So I think we need to explore every option of leveraging those funds to get the most bang for the dollar.
Got no issue with that.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin? Yeah. Lottery ticket, Sergio.
I think I've got all the answers I need to complete the budget.
Okay. Anybody have any other input? Geraldine?
I just really hope you can get that number 2, the soccer complex fundraising committee. That way they can help us on that,
Yep,
and we can get that
Will do.
phase 2 done. So I don't want it put on the back burner, but
You're ready for 100%, aren't you?
I'm ready for 100%, because when I can do it all, it's gonna be even better. So
Good deal, good deal.
yes.
I think they're going to be coming to visit with you. They came to visit me the other day.
Okay.
Josh?
I think
Good.
the chairman of that committee was, the chairperson of that committee was Ms. Hawkins. I'll try to get down if I can visit with her tomorrow.
They're gonna be -1 soon, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You good, Larry? Good. Sergio?
I'm good, sir.
Well, we want to
Thank you,
y'all.
staff.
Thank y'all for taking the time to come, and I hope that it's, hope 2014 2022 is a better year than 2021.
And I would like to say at this point that we're wrapping this up, just one last thing, is that I know we talk about this being city council budget, and I know we've talked about me writing the budget message for that, and me doing, and I've been up here doing most of the talking on this. Seems like those people out there have put in a ton of work on this, and it would not be possible without staff and those people out there, and they deserve a huge thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You got the best, even though Tracy's in there.
Yeah, even with Tracy.
GPS.
We're adjourned. What happens if he doesn't bang the hammer? Like, we're just in a meeting the rest of the day? Till next Tuesday?